news overnight, an appeals court blocking a Texas immigration law that allows local police to arrest migrants who have crossed the border illegally, just hours after the Supreme Court allowed it to go into effect. You are watching Fox and Friends First on this Wednesday morning. I'm Carly Shimkus.
And I'm Todd Pyro. The legal whiplash all happening ahead of a critical hearing. This same circuit of judges who just put a hold on the law will hear arguments on the case today. Senate candidate and former Border Patrol Chief Ron Vitiello standing by to react. But first, Doug Luzader live in Washington with the breaking developments. Doug.
Morning. And what a whipsaw this has been. First, the Supreme Court allows Texas to enforce its new border law. Then, in this surprise move overnight, a federal appeals court blocked it again. So where does this leave Texas? At the moment, apparently, back at square one. And that follows what had been a very good day for backers of the law that makes it a state crime to illegally cross the border into Texas. The Biden administration had been trying to block it, arguing this is a matter only for the federal government to enforce. And while that argument is playing out in lower courts, the Supreme Court, in a 6-3 decision yesterday, said Texas could move forward with enforcement in the meantime. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton wrote this on X, responding to that SCOTUS win. Huge win, he wrote. Texas has defeated the Biden administration's and ACLU's emergency motions at the Supreme Court. And White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre, on the other hand, wrote this. We fundamentally disagree with the Supreme Court's order allowing Texas's harmful and unconstitutional law to go into effect. SB 4 will not only make communities in Texas less safe, it will also burden law enforcement and sow chaos and confusion at our southern border. But now with this overnight ruling from a federal appeals court, the law is back on hold, and this will reignite what is already a hot issue out on the campaign trail.
Look, This election is not a referendum on me. It's an election between me and a guy named Trump, and this is a guy whose the way he talks about the Latino community is. 2016, he called Latinos criminal, drug dealers, and rapists when he came down that escalator. Now he says immigrants are poisoning the blood of our country.
And to add to the drama here, as if we needed more, Mexico is not happy at the prospect of getting migrants sent back their way, saying they would refuse to take them.
Yeah, yet another challenge. Doug Luzader live for us in Washington. Doug, thank you. Let's bring in Ron Vitiello, U.S. Senate candidate and former Border Patrol chief under former President Trump. Ron, good morning to you. On this Texas law that would make it a state crime to cross into the country illegally, as Doug was just laying out, it was on again, off again yesterday, bouncing back and forth between the Supreme Court and appeals court. So what do you think is ultimately going to happen here? And if this law does go into effect, what would that look like?
Well, as I understand it, it will give Texas authorities the ability to arrest people who they know cross the border illegally. And I believe the way the law is written is they have to see it, right? So all this fear about what they're going to do in communities outside of the border is over-indexed. People are hyping this in a way that's not necessary. But what's the root cause here? Texas, SB 4, Operation Lone Star, they're doing more to help protect that border than everybody except maybe the front line of DHS. And they wouldn't need SB 4 if the federal government was stepping up to its responsibilities to protect that border. And so SB 4 is a symptom of the larger problem, and very rich for the White House to say that they're going to sow chaos on our southwest border with the implementation of this law, because we've had chaos on the southwest border for about the last 3 years during the pendency of the Biden presidency. And so for them to suggest that this is going to make things worse is just hypocrisy at the highest level.
Yeah, that statement from the White House was gaslighting at the highest order. If this case, though, Ron, is ultimately decided in Texas's favor, think about this logically. You know this game really well. Won't all border states need to enact similar laws in their own states, or face the real threat of every single one of these illegal migrants saying, we're going to have problems if we go to Texas, let's say Arizona enacts the law, we'll have problems in Arizona. We are going to have to go to a place like maybe California, because that's the only place where we're not going to be arrested immediately and sent back. I'm looking at that and thinking that's a real big crisis for the state of California or any border states that don't enact a law if this ultimately is approved. What say you, Ron?
Well, we've already seen a shift out of Texas for the how it's playing out in Eagle Pass, the images that you're showing now, right? Texas locked down that Shelby Park. There was some controversy about whether they were going to let agents in or not, but they've effectively shifted the traffic out west. And so the governor of Texas and his team are doing more, again, besides anybody in DHS. And California, New Mexico, Arizona, they're going to suffer. They're already suffering from the shift in that activity. And so, yeah, you could see a place where Texas is locked down, safe and secure. They're helping secure the border and protecting the homeland. And Arizona, California, New Mexico, they might have to step up as well.
Yeah, well, there was going to be another hearing on this today, so to be continued. Ron, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks so much.
Stays of stays of stays of stays is why people hate the law. Thousands of miles from the border, southern border that is, New York voters are sounding off on Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, blaming her for, quote, third world conditions in their neighborhoods. I went to her district to see for myself. Here's what I found. We're here in AOC's neighborhood where people are pretty fired up about it being like a third world country. They're complaining about prostitutes roaming the streets. They're complaining about illegal street vendors. So we're going to go ask people, how bad is it here? Do you see your Congresswoman AOC a lot in this neighborhood?
I don't.
So how often do you see AOC in this neighborhood?
Not much.
AOC wants to help the people and goes and hides. She's a liar.
Have you noticed a lot more illegal vendors on the streets?
Absolutely, yes. It's been a normal for many years. Many years. They're crowding the street and people cannot go past by them. It's visual. Everybody sees it. But nothing's been done. Prostitution and everything is going on in this area.
In this area?
In this area, yeah.
And nobody does anything about it?
Nothing.
I would like to see all of DC provide more support to the cities that are dealing with the migrant influxes.
Does it seem like in some ways and on some days, this is like a third world country?
It's sad to say, but it's slowly getting there.
And look, that's what we were able to see around 8 a.m. in the morning on a very cold morning. So imagine that neighborhood, what it looks like on nights, weekends, when it's warm out, when there are people out. We're following the story all morning long on Fox and Friends. Rachel Campos Duffy was also in that neighborhood, spoke Spanish to some of the locals. That obviously I don't speak Spanish very well, so I couldn't communicate. You're going to want to stick around for that. It's an important story. We need to be, because there's so many people in this neighborhood that are legal immigrants doing it the right way, and the stuff that they need to deal with, to suffer through, just to have their slice of the American dream, it's not fair, and that's never talked about.
Very good point.
House Republicans moving ahead with their deep dive into the Biden family business, even without Hunter Biden, who demanded a public hearing. I need a public hearing, and then turned down the invitation. They did the union address.
Year before I took office, murder rates went up 30%. 30% they went up. The biggest increase in history.
Steve Nakui is the father of Kareem Nakui, who was just 20 years old when he lost his life in a suicide bombing outside the Hamid Karzai International Airport in Afghanistan in August 2021. The Attorney General's office says it has not prosecuted protesters in the past. Nakui says the news brought him to tears and that he is thrilled and humbled. Meantime, two former top generals who were in charge during the Afghanistan withdrawal under President Biden and are now private citizens criticized the White House for how it handled the deadly situation.
The fundamental mistake, fundamental flaw, was the timing of the State Department.
One thing to have the plan, it's the second thing to do the actual coordination on the plan.
And that was too little, too late.
It was my judgment that it was far too little, far too late.
The withdrawal eventually led to the Kabul airport bombing that killed 11 Marines, a Navy sailor, and an Army soldier. 13 brave American heroes were lost that day. Carly.
The House Oversight Committee is proceeding with today's hearing on the Biden family business without Hunter Biden, who demanded a public hearing but is now refusing to show up. Hunter's lawyer rejected the Republicans' invitation, saying your blatant planned-for media event is not a proper proceeding but an obvious attempt to throw a Hail Mary pass after the game has ended. Mr. Biden declines your invitation to this carnival sideshow. Congressman Tim Burchett will be at today's hearing, and he joins me now. Congressman, good morning to you. That sounds like a pretty definitive no on the part of Hunter Biden. What are the chances he surprises you and shows up to this thing?
I don't know. It's a clown show with him. I mean, Bozo's called and said that he's violating his contract because he's overstepping his bounds as a clown. You know, he said he didn't want to. He said he didn't want to be there, and then he said he did, and then he showed up out in front of the Senate, of course, away from the House grounds. And then he showed up uninvited, I guess you would say, at one of the hearings. When Marjorie Taylor Greene started to speak, he got up and unceremoniously walked out, you know, like he was doing something brave or something there. And the Democrats had his reserved seats down front. So this whole thing is just a charade, ma'am. You know, he's been subpoenaed and he's defied the subpoena, and nobody else gets to do that. And it's the same thing with everything about this whole deal. It's rules for thee and not for me.
Yeah, he held that impromptu press conference demanding a public hearing. Now it's happening today, and so far he's saying thanks but no thanks. But he keeps on popping up here, there, everywhere, so who knows? We will be watching. House Oversight Committee Chair James Comer just released an excerpt from his opening statements, and he plans to say the committee has identified no legitimate value or document or even one single hour of work that the Bidens have provided their business partners. In the course of this investigation, we have learned that Joe Biden has taken action after action to further his family's plans to get rich. The Biden family promises Joe's power. Joe Biden shows up and millions of dollars come into the Biden's pockets. Joe Biden is the Biden family closer. And while all of that may be true, there are critics who point to a missing piece and say that there hasn't been any proof that the president, even when he was a vice president, changed any policy or made new policy decisions based on the Biden family business. Where are Republicans on that?
Well, it's a mixed bag, but actually Tony Bobulinski, pretty much, who I believe will be at the hearing today, he was Hunter's business partner. He said that Joe Biden was the brand. He is the reason that they got into the meetings, and that's the reason that they closed the deals, so to speak, whatever deals those were. And it's just, all it was access. They sold no product. The banks, we have memos from bankers saying, hey, we've got to figure out what's going on with these folks because there is no product. And they always go back to the Trump family. Well, the Trump sold steaks and ties and real estate. They had a product. So there's nothing there. But the truth is that the Biden family name was being sold as he was vice president. So to me, that shows access and selling your name and selling access to this country.
Yeah. So you were right that Tony Bobulinski has confirmed Hunter Biden obviously declined. Devin Archer also declined. And Jason Galanis is going to appear via video conference from jail. He's serving a sentence for fraud charges. Democrats invited Lev Parnas, who is a former Rudy Giuliani associate, as their witness. And they say that he's going to be able to share firsthand evidence about Donald Trump and Republicans' effort to dig up dirt on Joe Biden. So they're going to try and make this about Donald Trump. What's that going to look like?
Again, another clown show. They're not sticking with the script. They never have. They know that this is a lame duck presidency at best, and that all they did was sold access. This is shady as it can be. I'll tell you one thing though, they've never shown that they've never put any proof forward that they paid 1 red cent in taxes. $20 million, ma'am. $20 million. And you have a Justice Department, you have an IRS that let these statutes run. They wouldn't let you or me do that for $500. Yet the Biden family gets $20 million just free, basically, that just filters through the 20 of their shell corporations or 21 of their bank accounts that they set up for this, that they sold no product. So there is a smoking gun there, ma'am. If anything, is paying taxes. And the president needs to show that he paid taxes on his cut, especially from the communist Chinese who paid into his bank account.
Very good point. Well, you're going to be at the hearing later today, so thank you so much for joining us first here to talk about it. Congressman Burchett, thanks a lot. Have a great day. We'll see you soon.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're very welcome. All right, senior meteorologist Janice Dean is here with our Fox weather forecast. Hi, Janice. Looking lovely and green.
You know what? It's the first official full day of spring. It arrived at 11 p.m. last night. Some areas not feeling very spring-like. Let's take a look at it. Current temperatures, 15 in Fargo, 16 in Marquette. Here in New York, 44, 43 in Atlanta, 49 in Memphis. Now, the northern tier is not going to feel like spring as we go through the next week or so because we've got cold air moving in from Canada. We've got the lake effect snow machine still up and running. In some areas, we've got close to a foot of snow in upstate New York, 7 inches for you in Vermont, and there's more of that on the way as we go through Thursday. More lake effect snow for east of the Great Lakes and then up towards Maine and also parts of Michigan and Wisconsin. There's your forecast today. So we have another storm system moving into the west, and then we also have the potential for showers and thunderstorms along the Gulf Coast and winter returning to the northern plains and the upper Midwest because we've got this setup. We've got a lot of moisture from the Pacific Northwest, and then we have these quick-moving clipper systems from Canada, that cold air reinforcing the snow, and several inches of snow, in some cases over a foot as we get through the mountains and then towards the upper Midwest, Marquette, Green Bay, and then also, we're looking at the potential for a coastal event this weekend for the Northeast. We've got the cold air sinking down towards the Gulf Coast. We've got the potential for snow, and then this area of low pressure that moves in towards the southeast, up towards the northeast coast. It looks like mainly rain along the coast, interior sections getting some snow, but a nasty weekend. We're hoping for the GFS model because it remains mostly offshore, but I think it's probably the combination of the two. So the bottom line is it's spring on the calendar, but some areas not so much.
Mom called me about that thing that's coming to Jersey on a weekend.
What, the coastal storm?
Yeah, she was nervous. That's
so
why
she was ahead of me.
I promised I'd listen to Janice's report.
We love an event. What's your mom's
like
name?
A coastal
Marianne.
event. Hi, Marianne.
She's
Good
nervous.
morning.
You calmed her down saying you could stay for sure.
So much.
Thank you for that.
Have a good
Happy
day.
to give her a forecast as well.
Will do. That's what you do.
All right. See ya.
Today wraps up President Biden's visit to Arizona, taking his campaign to Texas, hoping to salvage his cratering support among Latinos.
But he might have his work cut out for him.
So say it with me. Si se puede. The future is ours.
I was sort of raised.
Immigrants who crossed the border illegally. It comes just hours after the Supreme Court allowed the law to go into effect. Former Border Patrol Chief and Virginia Senate candidate Ron Vitiello joined us earlier.
They're doing more to help protect that border than everybody except maybe the front line of DHS. And they wouldn't need SB 4 if the federal government was stepping up to its responsibilities. And very rich for the White House to say that they're going to sow chaos on our southwest border with the implementation of this law, because we've had chaos on the southwest border for about the last 3 years.
The Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals is set to hear arguments about the law later this morning. Todd.
Carly, today President Biden is wrapping up his visit to Arizona before heading to Texas, all as part of his Latinos Cone Biden-Harris voter outreach.
I get criticism some places for having such a strong interest in Latino voters and Latino Americans and people here in the country. I point out to them, I said, can you imagine when you have 28% of all the students in public school are Latino, and nationwide, anybody who doesn't pay attention is really stupid. We achieved the lowest unemployment rate for Latinos in a long, long time. We cut Hispanic child poverty to record lows. We lowered the health care costs. We made historic investments in Latino small businesses, and we addressed gun violence in the communities. You're the reason why, in large part, I beat Donald Trump. Yes. Let's beat him again. Kamala and I desperately need your help.
Arizona voters Jorge Rivas, Moses Sanchez, and Monet Flores-Box are here to respond to the president's new initiative. Good morning to all three of you. Monet, we'll begin with you. Will it work? Will Latinos Cone Biden-Harris bring in Latino votes?
Good morning. Thanks for having me. Unfortunately, I think Biden coming to Arizona is just a Band-Aid on a great big open wound. And despite what President Biden might want us to believe, the Latino community in Arizona is really hurting due to inflation.
Hey, let's talk more about the issues because, Moses, regardless of the branding and the marketing that this president wants to put forth on his campaign, voters are ultimately going to look at where they are compared to 3 years ago. All voters, regardless whether they're Latino, white, black, it doesn't matter. And they're going to look at things like Monet mentioned, the economy. They're also going to look at crime. Do they feel safer? What are the issues that the Latinos that you know, that you hang out with, that you live with are talking about?
I mean, it's a problem that the Democrat Party really has here in Arizona. Everyday Arizonans, everyday Latinos, everyday Americans, they're not focused on the issues that actually matter, like economic stability, crime, public safety, supporting small businesses, reducing inflation. Those are the things that actually impact hardworking Latinos every day. And the Latinos combined, they're going to have to do a lot of work to overcome that hurdle.
Jorge, part of the campaign strategy from President Biden, and you heard it in that soundbite there to an extent, is to really paint Trump and Republicans as insensitive when it comes to the border, when it comes to an issue that Latinos, or at least the Biden administration assumes, Latinos care deeply about. But will that backfire in light of the fact that, yeah, Latinos care about the issue, but the ones who are here legally want everybody to follow the same darn rules that they did when they or their ancestors came to our country? Your thoughts, Jorge?
Yeah, we all know that for the last 3 years and a half, Biden has really damaged our livelihood. I mean, stopping the flow of gasoline being produced here in the United States really raised the price of everything. And also, we Latinos have a high, big moral values. And I think that also does not go along with the Democratic Party values. And I feel that any Latino that is supporting Biden at this moment is either because they're not very smart or because they're getting paid somehow. They're making money somehow, all the money that Biden is giving away in order to buy votes. So my little sign that I made is right here, one that says only dumb Latinos con Biden Harris. I think that's what it needs to say, because strong Latinos like ourselves, people that work hard every day, they're not going to support Biden and Harris because they haven't stepped up. They haven't done what we were supposed to be doing. So we feel that the only one that can keep and can do better for us and align with our values is Donald Trump, and we'll be voting for Donald Trump. You know, it comes the November election. So go Trump.
Point taken. Monet, do Biden and Harris really have any clue as to what Latinos really want? Or are they just talking from this ivory tower, this place of privilege, this out-of-touch world, just spewing progressive talking points?
Absolutely. They're pandering to us. For instance, Latinos spend over half of their income on basic necessities such as food, energy, housing. This is causing us to be disproportionately hurt by inflation more than any other racial group. And I mean, you can hear it in their rhetoric that they don't take it seriously. And these essential categories have experienced inflation rates that are even greater than average, leaving us really nowhere to turn for savings and preparing for the next generation.
Never treat any group as a monolith. It's always dangerous, and I think that's what the Biden administration is doing. Jorge, Moses, Monet, thank you for your insight. Keep us posted. Carly?
Thank you.
You're very welcome. I will thank you guys for Todd. How rude of you, Todd.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, it is being called Kate-gate. Have you heard about this? I'm sure you have. The Kate Middleton Photoshop controversy is exploding into an entirely new conversation about how altered images are scrutinized, policed, and shared with the public. Getty Images just flagged another picture as, quote, digitally enhanced at the source. This one is of Queen Elizabeth II and her grandchildren and great-grandchildren in 2022.
Joe Concha is a Fox News contributor, and he joins us now. Joe, pretty sure you're in the same boat as me. Don't really care much for the royals aspect of this story, but we do care about the media responsibility in dealing with altered images in this AI age. So how does the media need to handle this challenge?
Well, truth is truth, Todd, right? And whether it be words or images in this case, and especially in a world of AI, artificial intelligence, where a person's voice or image can be replicated to the point it can't be determined definitively in some cases whether it's real or whether it ain't. And look, this may not be the biggest story of the year, Todd, to your point, thus far, but it's certainly the oddest story to this point. For starters, I'm not sure anybody believes, at least anybody who's sane and sober, believes that Princess Kate is up at midnight playing with, Adobe Photoshop as she allegedly contended after that first photo came out. Yeah, I've been experimenting and I guess I didn't do it right. Like, no photo is leaving Buckingham Palace without a whole comms team making sure that it's the right photo. And look, what we're seeing now at this point is every photo now that you're going to see of Princess Kate or the royal family in general, it's going to be scrutinized right down to the last plant and tree in the background or shadow in it. In this latest photo determined to be fake, one obvious sign in retrospect that analysts didn't light source hitting from different angles on some of the kids' heads. In a typical photograph, the lighting only comes from a single source, meaning everyone should be shot and should have the same shadow. So that's what it's come to at this point. You could say, yeah, who cares if it's photoshopped or not? I think because of the princess's health at this point and the fact that we haven't heard from her in any way, that does raise some concerns, certainly.
So on the other side of this, though, is that what photo isn't digitally enhanced these days or altered or added a filter? So it feels like there's a pile-on effect when it comes to Kate Middleton and pictures of the royal family right now, when other pictures could easily be digitally enhanced as well, and they're not getting a Getty flag. So where do you draw the line here?
Sure. I think, Carly, we all take pictures with our family, and then we look at it on our phones afterwards, and then we do have those filters in different ways that we can enhance it in some way to make ourselves or our kids or our husband, wife look a little bit better. I think filters are one thing. I think when you outright start to change things in them to make it look like somebody may be there, or you could actually take people who may not have been in the shot, suddenly put them in the shot, especially when there's health concerns around a person when we haven't heard from them in many weeks. I think that's where the line is, I guess. So it's one thing to have one that's filter, make it look better. Okay, that's fine. Yeah. But another thing altogether when it's actually not what was taken at that particular moment or isn't real at all.
Yeah, you are certainly right to say that this is one of the strangest controversies to come up this year so far. And then there was that video of her at the farm shop, and it was sort of grainy, and now people are like, is that even her? We don't know. So I don't know. We wish her well.
I don't alter my
images. We do wish her well.
Yeah.
All my images are au naturel, and you mock me for them incessantly. Joe, thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Have a great day.
Thank you, Todd.
Here is a question. Carly. You're very welcome. Is Mark Cuban defending former President Trump? We are going to explain.
Plus, a David and Goliath story playing out in a small Michigan town. It's taken on a massive Chinese company. We're talking to one of the local lawmakers who's leading the charge. Stay with us.
My name is Jordan Weber from DeWitt, Michigan. And even though I'm not a morning person, I wake up early because Todd is hilarious and Carly's smile could light up anyone's day. They deliver all the most important news, ask the tough questions. It's easy to see why early mornings are better with friends.
With more. Hey, Sharon.
Oh, good morning to both of you. So, yes, billionaire Mark Cuban and an unlikely move coming to the defense of former President Trump. Cuban responding to this tweet from Democratic Congressman Ted Lieu, who wrote on X, quote, Trump claims that he is a billionaire, but he can't pay a $464 million judgment. That means he is lying. How do I know? Math. Hashtag Trump is broke. Well, Cuban responded not so fast. He posted on X, Ted, you know I'm no supporter of Trump. That's for damn sure. But you are wrong on this topic, Ted. Net worth is completely different than cash in the bank. We were in a zero interest rate environment for a long, long time. So keeping cash in the bank or even money markets was dumb. In fact, searching for yield is what killed small banks last year. Cuban goes on to write, Trump might have actually hurt himself because while he was president, he was arguing for the low interest rate environment that made it tough to keep money in cash. It just didn't make any sense. Trump's lawyers are arguing he won't sell his buildings in any kind of fire sale here in New York because he would take massive losses on those buildings. That cash crunch, of course, the result of a New York judgment against Trump that he lied about without net worth for tax and insurance.
Dollars stuffed underneath your mattress or in the bank. Okay, Cheryl, speaking of money, China's making a lot of money off of farmland.
So
in
this is
country.
interesting.
That's a problem.
Okay, there's going to be a House hearing today, and it's going to examine the, quote, danger China poses to American agriculture. Committee Chair Glenn Thompson says that they're going to, quote, look to every available legislative vehicle, including the Farm Bill, to stop China in its tracks and strengthen our food and national security. Well, according to the USDA, Chinese individuals, groups, companies own nearly 350,000 acres of agricultural land in the United States, worth about $2.11 billion in total. One of those firms, and they're not agriculture, but they are a Chinese company. They're called Goshen. They're now suing a town in West Michigan